Hello, I am going to make another attempt at doing a resin bloom. I've already put a shallow layer of clear resin in the bottom of this floral molds and shapes mold. And there you can see I'm just using my heat gun to help pop the bubbles a little bit. And an empty cup for your viewing pleasure. I don't know what that was about, but who knows? I do a voiceover, obviously, so I'm not always in time with what's going on or what I think I'm showing in the camera at the moment. Here are my Ranger inks. I have terracotta, sunshine yellow, and I love this one. This one is ember. It really reminds me of like a bright vermilion color, and I really like it. For my bloom, I'm going to be adding interference gold. This is from Color Art. Into my white paste from Amazon. I think it's called Limino. And I've got it mixed up there, ready to go in my little sandwich piping bag. For the center, I'm going to mix up a little bit of this decorative sand and some gold glitter. And spoiler alert, I do not like the way this turns out in the end. It seemed like a good idea, but it didn't really turn out that great. But you don't know these things until you try them, right? Not everything is going to be fantastic the first time around. So I am going to take my time dropping everything into the resin this time, starting with a little bit of that sand and glitter mixture, kind of aiming towards the center. And I'm sure you can agree that it doesn't always end up in the center. Starting with the ember. I'm going to go around with the ember, the sunshine yellow, and the terracotta. So this is not always the most exciting part to watch, and this is sped up ×2, but just trying to take my time and not rush things and strategically place the ink a little bit more thoughtfully than I did last time. I promise I won't use the P word 100 times this time. So I might do one more bloom after this one before I move on to another project. Actually, I have started a geode. It's a lengthy process for me because I am really indecisive when it comes to even just deciding what color I'm going to use and then trying to decide on what elements I want to use and where I want to use them on the piece. So it's actually quite I don't want to say a struggle because I love doing them, but it takes me a long time to figure out what I'm going to do. And I usually change my mind at least 5 times in the process of it, and it doesn't even end up looking the way I've imagined or even like drawn it roughly on a piece of paper. So in my house, I have a dog and I have to pull out a piece of dog hair every single time. There's the culprit, looking all proud and completely unashamed. So the ink didn't really spread out. I noticed in the last bloom I did that the ink spread out to the point where the little blobs were almost, if not completely touching. But these colors did not seem to barely move at all. And in hindsight, I wish I had gone around again and swirled them together a little bit more. But I actually think this looks kind of pretty, and I should have just left it like that. I do notice in the end result that the ink didn't behave the same way that it did in my last bloom. You'll see that at the end. So trying to be a little bit more purposeful with my piping here. I'm going to go around and make petal shapes. I think I do end up doing 3 passes of the petal shape from large, medium, and small. And one thing that I noticed right away was that the inner 2 layers of those petals are sitting on the surface. The outer petal seems to have sunk down a little bit, but the medium shape and the small shape are sitting there on the surface, which is kind of interesting. My last bloom, everything seemed to sink in a little bit quicker. And again, this shows up in the final result, as you'll see at the end. And any bloom experts out there that could give me some advice on what happened here, if you know, that'd be great. I would appreciate it. I also did not check my white before I poured it into the piping bag. Last time I checked the opacity of it, just against the like on the end of my stick, and it seemed really quite transparent. Well, semi-transparent, where I didn't check this time, so I don't know if I added more white to it than I should have, or what happened. But anyway, for my background, I'm using Color Passion Black Passion paste, and I have blended some black and gold, the same gold glitter that I used on the center. I've mixed those together, and I'm adding that to my black paste so that my background has a little bit of sparkle in it. So I don't know if I mentioned, while this was curing, before I unmolded it, I started tidying up my art room, especially my table, a little bit because it gets a little chaotic. But I had an open house, and I wanted to start working on my geode, and I really need to just wipe the slate clean on my table so that I can bring out all of my supplies for my geode and kind of agonize over what I'm using. I did that. I started doing that the day before my open house. So then the morning of my open house, I went into my art room, and there was so much stuff laying around that I was kind of mad at myself for making a mess again. But I just decided that, you know what, there's a creative person that lives here my art stuff and my supplies and my projects are going to be, they're going to be in this room. The rest of the house is a lot, more house-like, house for sale-like. I just have this one little art room that, there's things that are happening in this room, and I'm not going to stress myself out by making it look like what it's not, I guess is what I'm saying. So anyway, thanks for listening to my TED Talks. All right. I do like adding glitter to my black paste. I think it adds just a little bit of sparkle and doesn't make it quite so boring. Not that black is boring. I love black. But I also love glitter. So to me, this is a great combination. Okay, there's my clean table. Isn't it lovely? All right, let's pull this out of the mold and see what it looks like. The back is nice and sparkly. Well, I have to say, I am not in love with this at all. I don't know what I did with the white petals. They look a little weird. It kind of looks a little like atomic or spacey like, with the sparkly black background. Kind of works together, but you know what? I don't love it. Here's a closer look up of it. The gold interference is pretty, but those petals just didn't really turn out very well. And that center, like I was saying, is not spectacular. Good thing it's got a sparkly background. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you soon. Bye.